Tuesday, May 7th on the Black and Gold Breakdown. Welcome in, everybody. Every night from Monday through Friday, everything Steelers. Today, over-unders in the AFC North. And, it's the yearly thing that sports books do and analysts do and writers do where, it's after the draft and you can kind of get a rough look at what NFL rosters are going to look like. There's going to be some other moves for around the league between now and week one, of course. But, for the most part, what the teams look like now, pretty good estimate on what they'll look like week one in terms of, their major players, their major contributors. We kind of know, like I said, for the most part, who each major contributor for each team will be. And as it turns out, and again, as it usually is almost every year at this point, where projected win totals and over-unders come out, the Steelers are projected, to finish last in the AFC North, which is becoming a yearly tradition. According to BetMGM, their projected win total or their over-under is set at 7.5. When Cincinnati is set at 10.5, the Cleveland Browns are set at 8.5, and then the Baltimore Ravens, if I can find them, I just scrolled past them, are set at 11.5. So Vegas likes the Ravens to repeat as AFC North champions. I do not. First off, I'll give you my projected order right now. Will be the Bengals winning the division. They're set at 10.5 wins by BetMGM. Getting a healthy Joe Burrow back. He, for my money, is the third best quarterback in the NFL. With Jamar Chase, T. Higgins is still there. Trey Hendrickson's still there. We'll see what happens with them, but I don't think either of them are getting moved. If any of them do get moved, I think it would be Trey Hendrickson. But I think they're just going to try to run this thing back with Burrow, Chase, Higgins, knowing that this is their last rodeo to try to win a Super Bowl together. So I don't think T. Higgins is getting moved. Plus, they add Jermaine Burton into the fold. Andre Yacivas has proven to be, a promising piece in the offense. They bring over, who's the running back that they've signed that I'm now forgetting? Brain fart from the Colts. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. It's going to escape my mind. To pair with Chase Brown. Now I've got to look up their depth chart just to. Was it Zach Moss? It was Zach Moss, yeah. See, I knew it started with a Z. So they bring over Zach Moss to pair with Chase Brown in the backfield. Their offense is going to be great. Defensively, I know that there's questions, but they bring over Geno Stone. They bring back Von Bell to put at safety. The defensive backfield was their biggest weakness last year because they were young. Now you get two proven veterans back there. Von Bell, who played well before leaving Cincinnati for Carolina, comes back. Geno Stone leaves the rival Ravens to come over to Cincinnati. I think the Bengals are winning the division. I think the Steelers finish second. Over under 7.5 wins. I'll smash that over. I don't know how many times the Steelers have to do this where Vegas just finally catches up, or if they just enjoy giving money away to people that are smart. But it seems that Vegas does this every year where they project the Steelers to just not be very good. And every year the Steelers hit the over on their win total. If anything's been proven, they are going to finish with less than 9 wins. So an over 7.5 is easy money. Because you look at what they did last year. They're playing a third place schedule again this year. And again, I know that preseason projections are, what have you. Things change throughout the NFL season. It's hard to project. But they're playing a third place schedule similar to what they did last year. They've got upgrades at quarterback. They got upgrades at offensive coordinator. The defense got better by adding Patrick Queen, bringing over Deshaun Elliott, drafting Peyton Wilson. Offensive line got better with Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier being drafted. And so if they could win 10 games last year with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. Why can't they at least get 9 with upgrades at quarterback? Doesn't matter how you feel about Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. They're clear and obvious upgrades over every quarterback that was on the roster last year. Doesn't matter how you feel about Arthur Smith. It's a clear and obvious upgrade over Matt Canada from last year. Plus the offensive line additions, plus the Peyton Wilson addition, plus the Deshaun Elliott addition. They get even the Dante Jackson addition. He's going to be better than what Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson were last year, because that would be very difficult to be worse than what they were. Pittsburgh's going to be better than 7.5 wins. And so that just feels like easy money to take an over 7.5 there. I think Pittsburgh finishes second in the division, and I think Baltimore finishes third. I know everybody loves kissing the butts of the Baltimore Ravens, loves kissing the butts of Lamar Jackson and company there. Fact of the matter is that Baltimore, they've been a good regular season team when everybody's healthy, but when it comes to the postseason, when the lights are the brightest, they don't show up. And Lamar Jackson's 2 biggest postseason games against Buffalo and against the Kansas City Chiefs, he scored a combined 13 points. And keep that number 13 in mind, because Lamar Jackson is 0-4 in postseason games when his opponent scores more than 13 points. His biggest win to date is his win over the Houston Texans, led by a rookie, C.J. Stroud. And albeit C.J. Stroud is terrific, but a rookie still with not a lot of weapons. Tank Dell was hurt. They could key in on Nico Collins. And after that, I mean, it was wraps. Defensively, they played hard in the first half, but the offense couldn't get anything going that made it substantial. So Lamar Jackson's biggest win to date was against the Houston Texans. And then when Baltimore wanted to get cute and try to prove that, Lamar can outthrow Patrick Mahomes in an AFC Championship game and win, he very much showed he cannot do that. So I got to tell you, I'm not worried about the Baltimore Ravens. As a Steelers fan, I'm not. Lamar Jackson's beaten the Steelers once in 2019 with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback. And even then, that game went into overtime, and Mike Tomlin deferred. They won the coin toss. Mike Tomlin said, it's overtime. Give him the ball. We'll get it back. And they did. And if not for Juju Smith-Schuster fumbling, they probably win that game. Steelers fans don't worry about the Ravens because they don't have to. They don't worry about Lamar Jackson because they don't have to. Lamar Jackson is a very good regular season quarterback, but when it comes time to show up in the playoffs, rarely he does. He's got a 2-4 playoff record. That speaks for itself. So give me the Bengals, give me the Steelers over the Ravens. And look, the Ravens will probably be, if they stay healthy, they're gonna be in the playoff hunt. They'll probably get a playoff spot. But in terms of them being a Super Bowl threat, man, they lost Mike McDonald, who was, the brainchild behind the defensive operation last year, and they were really good. They're not going to be that good defensively this coming year. They lose Patrick Queen to Pittsburgh. They lose Geno Stone to Cincinnati. Defensively, they're not going to be as good. Offensively, outside of Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews, who, by the way, Mark Andrews is getting a little bit older and starting to get hurt. Outside of those two, you don't have anybody to throw to. And that's great that you added Derrick Henry, but if a 30-year-old running back is what you're banking your season on and getting to the Super Bowl, good luck. I like Derrick Henry, but he's been great for a long time, and it hasn't resulted in anything. Ravens don't scare me as a Steelers fan. I don't think they're a legitimate Super Bowl threat. They'll be good in the regular season like they always are, and then when they face a real team in the playoffs, they'll do what they always do and fail to live up to expectations. Not worried about the Baltimore Ravens. And again, their win total is set at 11.5. I will take a nice under on that number. And then the Cleveland Browns, they're set at 8.5. I think that Cleveland can win 8 games. I think they could win 9 games. I think all 4 teams will be in the AFC playoff hunt. I think the Bengals will win the division. I think the Steelers will have a wild card spot. It won't shock me if Baltimore does. Cleveland's going to be fighting for a wild card spot until the very end. And it's very rare that you get your starting quarterback back who you're paying $230 million to, and everybody almost unanimously agrees that you got worse. Because Deshaun Watson hasn't been good going on, 4 years? Like, if your quarterback isn't good and you're paying him that much money, there's only so much you can do around that money. Now, the year-by-year basis of it, I mean, it's starting to even out with all these other quarterbacks getting their new contracts. But even then, man, you're paying him a ton of money guaranteed. And I would bet a lot of money that the Cleveland Browns would love to find some way to get out of that because he hasn't been good. Watson hasn't been good since 2020, maybe? And even then, the Texans didn't win anything that year. I think they went 4-12. Granted, not to the fault of Watson, but he has not been good in 4 years. And yet, there's still Browns fans who will bark to high heaven about, Deshaun Watson's going to be great this year. This will be the year, actually. Not 2022 or 2023. No, this year. This will be the year. I was 3 years early on it, actually. Their defense is going to be awesome because Jim Schwartz is a great defensive coordinator. Myles Garrett is terrific. They got a lot of studs on that side of the ball. But I don't trust Watson. And hot take, the Browns have the worst quarterback situation in the AFC North. I'll take Russell Wilson and Justin Fields right now before I take Deshaun Watson. He's not good. Now, that's not to say that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are great, but I would comfortably take both of them right now before I took Deshaun Watson for on the field and off the field reasons. But, if we're just talking purely on the field right now, he's not good. Tell me how good Deshaun Watson will be, and I'll tell you how far they can go. Because the defense last year kicked ass. And Joe Flacco came in knowing that the defense kicked ass and played pretty loose. Had some turnovers, had a good amount of turnovers, but again, they're mostly against bad teams. Like I think he threw 3 picks against the Jets. But he knew, okay, it's the Jets. They're starting Tim Boyle. Like if I throw an interception, the defense is going to get it right back, so I'm not too worried. Unfortunately, though, you're not going to be playing the Jets every week or the Jaguars every week, who have a terrible pass defense. So the Browns, again, their defense is going to be great. They'll be in the wild card race, no doubt, just off their defense alone. And I'm going to pull up each team's schedule too, just so I have that on hand, just to get a rough look at what they are working against. But in terms of the Browns, man, like, tell me how good Watson is, and I'll tell you how far they can go. But I don't have faith in Deshaun Watson. So to start with the Bengals, I think that they're going to win the division. Outside of the divisional games, pretty similar to Pittsburgh's. They'll host the Broncos. Their home games are Denver, Las Vegas, Philadelphia, Washington, and New England. So hosting the Broncos, Raiders, Eagles, Commanders, Patriots, and then away they will play the Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, Panthers, Titans on the road. Now, tough luck of the drawing the Chiefs on the road, but Joe Burrow's only lost there once against Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, that's a place that they've been pretty comfortable in. So, Cincinnati's going to do really well this season. The Chiefs game obviously being the biggest one to circle, but even then, they should beat the Titans. The Titans are very fascinating to me, but I don't think they're going to beat Cincinnati. They beat them last year, of course, but we'll see what they look like. They'll beat the Panthers. They'll beat the Giants. They should beat the Chargers. And again, it's an NFL season, NFL team. They're going to have games that they should win. They'll have at least one game that they should win that they don't. But this is a relatively easy schedule for the Bengals. I think 12-5, 13-4 is definitely in the cards for the Bengals. We talked a little bit about the Steelers' schedule, but I'll pull theirs up real quick just so, or the Steelers' opponents, not their schedule quite yet, which is rumored to come next week. So, I mean, the Steelers, divisional games, of course, but home for the Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, Jets, away for the Falcons, Broncos, Colts, Raiders, Eagles, Commanders. So I think that they can go 10-7, best case 11-6. Then the Ravens opponents for 2024. Again, a lot of these are going to be pretty similar because the AFC North plays the AFC West and the NFC East this year. So for the Ravens at home, outside of the divisional games, they'll play the Eagles, the Broncos, the Commanders, the Raiders, and the Bills. And then away, they will play the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, Giants, Buccaneers, and Texans. So I think 9-8, maybe 10-7 for the Ravens. And then for Cleveland, get theirs pulled up real quick to see what they're working with. For the Browns at home, they'll host the Chiefs, Chargers, Cowboys, Giants, Dolphins, and then the 3 divisional games. And then away, they will face the Broncos, Raiders, Eagles, Saints, Jaguars, Commanders, and then the divisional games. So, again, I think 8-9 for the Browns, but still a team that's going to have an awesome defense. But 7.5 wins for the Steelers, man. We do this every year where everybody's like, oh, Steelers are going to finish last in the AFC North. Steelers haven't finished last in the AFC North / AFC Central since 1988. That's the last time they finished at the bottom of the division. Ronald Reagan was president the last time they finished last in the division. And yet every year, we got to have this conversation because somebody says, this might be the year. It's been 40 years since they finished last in the division. And for some reason, people are really high on the Deshaun Watson-led Browns, thinking that Lamar Jackson's just going to eventually overcome his obvious shortcomings. Whatever, man. Whatever. No wide receiver, too. Again, they're going to get one. Their second wide receiver isn't on their roster right now. And if it ends up being Roman Wilson and it's like a little bit of an underwhelming addition at receiver, then that just means Roman Wilson had a good mini camp, and that's promising. But it's going to be somebody. They're going to trade for somebody. They wouldn't have cleared up the cap space if they weren't going to. One way or the other, they're going to bring somebody else in. It's not going to be Van Jefferson. He had 28 targets last year. He's wide receiver 4 comfortably. So I'm not worried about that because it's clear that they have something that they're aware of that nobody else is. And then when the move gets done, we're all going to be like, oh, okay, well, either cool or wow, that was really unexpected and cool, or okay, well, it's something. Again, I think it's going to be DK Metcalf or Cortland Sutton. Those are my 2 top guesses right now. I think that the 49ers are running it back with who they've got. They're going to try one more time to win a Super Bowl. How about Boyd? Tyler Boyd is a slot receiver. Once they drafted Roman Wilson, that ship had sailed. And Frank, I would much rather have a long-term answer in the slot with Roman Wilson than a 1-year stopgap of Tyler Boyd, who's going into year 9. So I'm cool with them passing on Tyler Boyd. That's fine with me. No disrespect to Tyler Boyd, but just no need for him to be here when they already have too many slot receivers. Quez Watkins probably not going to make the team. He's a slot receiver. Roman Wilson's a slot receiver. If you would have signed Tyler Boyd, you got 3 slot receivers for what? No need. No need. That's an interesting shot. What about Brandon Cooks? I'd be all right with that. It wouldn't be like the flashiest addition, but I wouldn't hate it. Started finding his footing last year in Dallas a little bit. Has played well basically everywhere he's went, Started off with the Saints, which is I think 2017, 2018. He's been in the league for a little bit. Then Or no, New England then the Saints. New England Saints. Rams. And now in Dallas. So I wouldn't hate Brandon Cooks. Again, he had a nice year last year in Dallas, especially in like the second half of the year once he really got his feet under him. So Dallas also doesn't have a ton of depth at receiver at all. Because outside of CD and Brandon Cooks, who the hell do they have that Dak is throwing to right now? Let me pull this up real quick. Now, if, this is a big if, because I need to look at their depth chart first. But if, so I got Jalen Tolbert, yeah, they don't have Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Brooks, Ryan Florent. Yeah, dude, they don't. Martavis Bryant's still on the roster, apparently. Fun fact. Yeah, dude, that is rough. I wonder, I've said it before, like, I wonder, in terms of who they would trade for, depending on the situation, if they would just toss in Calvin Austin as somebody that would be part of a trade package. But if you just trade, like, I don't know, Calvin Austin and a 7th for Brandon Cooks and a 6th, that's fine. That's cool. I don't think anybody would be complaining about that. Or if the Steelers have to toss in an additional one, maybe like Austin, a 7th, and like a 5th. Cool. 2-day 3s and Calvin Austin, who's not going to see the field a ton anyway. Sure. And that would be a nice upgrade at wide receiver too to help out George Pickens. I'm fine with it. I'm down with it. That's fine. Yeah, Brandon Cooks wasn't a name that I'd really considered up until now. That's a good shout. Yeah, Cooks last year, 64 touchdowns, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. Fine. I'm cool if he ends up being the guy. Fine by me. Fine by me. So yeah, if it ends up being where only for this like really specific situation, because Dallas doesn't have really any other receivers. If they move Gallup behind CeeDee Lamb, I could see it being okay. Calvin Austin, a 5 and one of the 2 7ths they got from Philadelphia in exchange for Brandon Cooks and a 6th. Cool. Fine with me. Giving up a receiver is not going to see the field all that much. Fine by me. Now, Brandon Cooks still wouldn't be my first choice, but I'm down. If he ends up, that's a fine consolation prize. Like if they don't get DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, I'm cool with Brandon Cooks. You can do worse than Brandon Cooks. All right, I'll get to all your comments real quick. Cooks is not worth all that. It's 2-day 3 picks. It's hardly anything. With Austin, Jerry Jeudy went for a pair of day 3 picks, and I think they're probably in the same space. And again, for Dallas, they'd send a pick back too in terms of like the Austin stuff because they don't have anybody behind CeeDee Lamb other than Brandon Cooks. So I'd be fine with that. They get Cooks, they draft next year. I think they're going to do that. Yeah, that's fine. Fine by me. If they end up drafting a receiver next year, cool. Win predictions are for suckers all over the day. Yeah, and again, it's just every year with the Steelers where everybody's like, oh, they're going to finish last in the AFC North, but they haven't done that since 1988, and it makes me laugh. The goal is DK. You know how I feel about DK, man. It's talented, but him and George Pickens, that could possibly spell just diva overload, and I'll be worried about it. Talent-wise, it's obviously there. He's very, very good. I'm just very, I'd be concerned about that. The goal is Ayuk. They ain't moving Ayuk, man. I think that ship has sailed. Once the draft got finished and he wasn't moved, they ain't moving him. They're going to try to run this thing back one last time when they still have Debo, when they still have Calvin Austin, when they still have Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Like, as long as they want to run this thing back one more time with this group of guys. This is the last shot that they got, So next year they're going to have to pay some people. Other guys on the defensive side of the ball are going to walk. This is really their last hoorah with this group of guys. So I don't think Ayuk's going anywhere. Calvin will see the field. Yeah, you guys know how I feel about that too. Don't think he's going to see the field a ton. I think we talked about this. I think he had 37 targets last year. Look at his target numbers. I don't think he's going to see the field a ton. I think he'll be the 5th receiver. really the 6th receiver because Pat Freiermuth is going to be a slot receiver more or less. And I think that the targets are going to be really divvied up between, how many did he have last year? He had 30 targets last year in 17 games. So I think that the 5 guys who are going to see the most targets, it'll be Pickens, whoever they bring in at the other receiver spot, Roman Wilson, Pat Freiermuth, and then Jaylen Warren out of the backfield. Those are going to be the 5 preliminary target guys. And then, occasionally you'll get, here, a Van Jefferson here, a Calvin Austin there. More Darnell Washington than last year, but still, he's not going to be a guy that gets, 40 catches. So I think that it'll be 5 guys that are mostly looked at for targets this year. Maybe a 5th for Cooks or swap 4th or 6th. I like Austin's potential. I just don't think he's going to see the field a ton. He'll return punts and be the 5th receiver on the depth chart. Not getting Ayuk. Niners aren't trading. Yeah, once the draft pay or pass and they hadn't traded for him, I don't think that's going to happen. If you get Cooks dress, yeah, that's fine. They can draft a receiver next year. Not really sure Seattle's trading DK either. Seattle's in that weird spot where they're not bad, but they're not Super Bowl contenders either. They got a new head coach. They're going in somewhat of a different direction. They've let a few veterans walk. I think Quandre Diggs is no longer there. Jamal Adams isn't there either. I could see them just kind of having a soft rebuild where they go in a different direction under Mike McDonald's vision. So I think that's the one. Geno Smith's their quarterback. Had a really fun year in 2022. Was hurt a little bit in 2023. Was still fine, but I think that Seattle has a very hard ceiling, and it's 9 wins and an exit in the wild card round. That's my thoughts on it. Moving one of them, why did they take Pearsall? To prepare for next year when Deebo Samuel's not there? Because at first, I had the same thoughts, but I think that you can load up on weapons. You can't have too many weapons in today's NFL. So now you've got Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. Jesus. They're trying their hardest to make a run at this thing. So again, I don't think they're going to move any of them. Doesn't mean that they won't, obviously, but I would be surprised if they did. I think they're just going to try to really go balls to the wall this year, do all they can to win a Super Bowl this year, because it's really their last chance to do it with this group as it is. So they got to start paying some dudes. You're going to have to let some guys walk. So I think that this is going to be really their last chance to win it with this group. And then once Deebo is gone next year, because my guess is they're just going to trade him next year, then you've got a perfectly good Ricky Pearsall right there. So not worried about it. They drafted that Jacob Cowing kid too. He's only 5'8". I think he would be more of a gadget dude than anything. Gadget slot guy. So that's another thing. I think that they went into that thinking, okay, Ricky Pearsall will be the predominant replacement for Deebo Samuel when the time comes. But one guy isn't going to fill those shoes, so we'll take a Jacob Cowing and see if we can see what we can get out of him. Just my thoughts. These character issues are saving me. Look, man, it is what it is. Call a spade a spade. He's taking multiple cheap shots at dudes when they've either covered him really well. The Seahawks are losing. He's not getting his targets. He's pissed. Legitimately injured a dude by taking a cheap shot at him. I'm not a fan of DK Metcalf, the on-field person, because he multiple times just loses his cool. So it's my biggest concern there with him. Again, no question about the talent. Talent is very obviously there. He's good. But now if I had to guess if it's going to be somebody, probably him. It'll be after June 1st, though, so we still got to wait, another month. But I'm telling you, it concerns me. Having both him and George Pickens, who we saw firsthand with his diva antics last year, all the social media stuff. So again, they're good, but it worries me. Joe Burrow can't ever stay healthy. Stuff with Joe Burrow, man. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that's out of his control. The wrist thing, he hit it on like somebody's helmet, I believe. The calf thing was a non-contact thing. And then the ACL was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. I'm not too worried about Joe Burrow's health. Sometimes shit just happens. Sometimes it just happens. Deal's not done June 1st to 7th. It won't happen. I don't think that there's like a hard date on it. It'll happen sometime in June, would be my guess. Just my guess. Everyone still loves Gronk, even though he almost killed Trey White after that play from behind. I forgot about that. That was a really long time ago. And again, the thing with Gronk is that like it was I do remember what you're talking about now. It wasn't good. It was bad. However, it wasn't a repetitive thing with Gronk the way it is with DK Metcalf. So I'm not defending Gronk doing it, but DK Metcalf has done this constantly. Now look, like I said, the talent speaks for itself. It's definitely there. But I'd have my worries. But if you're just joining and missed my little spiel on the over-under win totals, at least my predictions as of right now, the Bengals are going to go over their win total and win the division. They're set at 10.5. I think they clear that relatively easily. I think they go 12-5, 13-4. The Steelers are at 7.5 because we do this thing every year where Vegas thinks, oh, this is the year. Steelers are going to finish last in the division. I don't know if they just enjoy giving money to people with common sense every year, but 7.5 wins is the Steelers' win total after they upgraded a quarterback, offensive coordinator, multiple spots on the defensive side of the ball, and had 10 wins last year. 7.5 wins. So I think they'll get at least 10 wins this year. I think 10-7 is a fine number to put them at. To go second place in the division, I think Baltimore takes a step back. Outside of Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews, who got hurt last year. Who the hell's Lamar throwing the ball to? By the way, Lamar Jackson, just great regular season quarterback, disappears in big moments. I'm not worried about the Ravens. Not worried about the Ravens at all. I think their best opportunity to get to a Super Bowl was last year. And, not all these quarterbacks are going to end up getting to Super Bowls. And I wrote about it this year. I don't think Lamar's getting to one. Not only do I don't think he'll win one, I don't think he'll get to one. Because the Ravens have shown time and time again, his two biggest games of his career against the Bills and the Chiefs in the playoffs, the Ravens have scored a combined 13 points. Lamar Jackson's 0-4 in the playoffs when his opponent scores more than 13 points. I ain't worried about the Ravens. And that's great that they added Derrick Henry. But if you're banking your future and your season on a 30-year-old running back, hey, tip of the cap to you. That ain't going to win you anything in the playoffs. Derrick Henry's been great for a long time. He hasn't won anything either. I ain't worried about the Ravens. And then with the Browns, it's just Deshaun Watson. Everything else on the roster looks really nice. Their defense kicks ass. Jim Schwartz is a really good defensive coordinator. Deshaun Watson's bad. Has been bad for 4 years. Not worried about Cleveland as like a Super Bowl threat. They'll hang around the wild card race because their defense is good, but I don't believe in Deshaun Watson. So Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, Browns is my current projections. And once the schedule comes out next week, it looks like the 14th, so a week from today, I'll be able to give you at least game-by-game thoughts on it. But as of right now, yeah, Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, Browns is what I'm looking at. Think the Bengals will just turn it around just because of Burrow? I don't. They have more problems than him not being there. Well, their biggest issue defensively was the secondary last year. They bring over Geno Stone at safety. They bring over Von Bell at safety, who used to be with them before he went to Carolina last year. So they get two good veterans on the back end. Bring in Jermaine Burton as another receiving threat. Andre Yoshevach is also, a nice piece to have as like their third or fourth receiver. If they go four wide, I mean, it's Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Jermaine Burton, Yosevich, I think the Bengals are going to be fine. I think they're going to be really good. Right now, they're my pick in the AFC to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Burrow's great. Their team overall is good. We'll see how the stuff with Higgins and Trey Hendrickson shapes out. Don't think either of them are getting moved. think they're just going to end up playing this year, and if they both go elsewhere next year, okay. But I think the Bengals are in a similar spot to the 49ers where they're just going to go balls to the wall this year. This will be the last run that they have with Higgins and maybe Hendrickson. So I think they're just really gearing up to try to win this thing this year, similar to the 49ers. That would be a fun Super Bowl, by the way. We get Bengals 49ers. I'd be very okay with that. Be very okay with that. Lamar missed his perfect opportunity this year. He lost his whole offensive line and a bunch of defense. And yeah, that's the thing. Like Mike McDonald was the brainchild behind that defense, and he's gone. Patrick Queen's gone. Geno Stone's gone. The offensive linemen are gone. Yeah, I'm not worried about the Ravens. Like I said, they'll win games in the regular season. They'll probably be a wild card team. Not too scared of them. Cousins has better primetime stats than Burrow by a good amount. Surprising, but tells you a lot about Burrow. Not really. I couldn't care less about what time a game is played. Like Burrow has been to consecutive AFC Championship games, was within a couple plays of getting to consecutive Super Bowls. He's great. He's the third best quarterback in the NFL for my money. I still think Allen's better, but Burrow's tremendous. So I got no worries about Joe Burrow. Is the injury stuff like somewhat concerning? Sure. Like you're gonna, like if you're a Bengals fan and you see him take like a hit, you'll be like, ah, crap. But no, in terms of his talent, he's at minimum top 5. And if you want to make the argument that he's the second best quarterback in football, I'd listen to you. Like I said, I prefer Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's better, but no, he's that dude. Absolutely 100%. Think he's great. Steelers are due for a division title. I mean, look, man, no one's due for anything. It's the NFL. If that was the case, the Browns would have won one by now. No one's due for anything. No, I think it'll be the Bengals, but I think the Steelers would be number 2. Justin Simmons possible. We keep coming back to this. Maybe. I just don't care. I think that's where I'm at with the Justin Simmons stuff. I don't care. Like right now, you already have a superstar receiver. If they do, cool. But I don't care. I would much rather see them get a big name receiver. I just don't care. Don't care. Like I said, if they get him, awesome. If they can get him and a nice receiver, great. I'm not. But if they don't get Justin Simmons, I'm not going to be like, oh, golly gee, Clem Burrow's so clutch, but he needed that elite defense for those runs. I'll say, yeah, the playoff run when they got to the Super Bowl, I can agree that Burrow got overrated in that playoff run because the defense did a lot of the heavy lifting for sure. But even then, Burrow's awesome. Undercover Bengals fan. Nothing like that. No. Nothing like that. As somebody who just is lucky enough to be able to, cover football and appreciate great football and appreciate great players, I love Joe Burrow. That's the thing. Like, honestly, I don't hate the Bengals. Like, as a Steelers fan, I used to. Like, when Burfict was still there, I hated Vontaze Burfict. I hated a select number of them, but they're all gone. They just got too much fun players that I like. I wish that they weren't in the division because I hate that the Steelers have to play them twice a year because they're fucking good. But I love Jamar Chase. Love Joe Burrow. Geno Stone, who I liked in Baltimore, is now there too. Like now they got a lot of dudes that I really like. I love Trey Hendrickson. I think he's one of the more underrated pass rushers in football. There's a reason that he wants paid. It's because he's really good. Logan Wilson's awesome too, linebacker. Like they got a lot of dudes that I like. So I don't even hate the Bengals. Remember in 2020, I didn't even hate the Browns. I was like, fuck it, let them go to the playoffs. And then, of course, everything happened when Juju ran his mouth, and then they beat the Steelers in the playoffs. And then they traded for Deshaun Watson, and then everybody hated the Browns. And I was like, all right, yeah, we hate the Browns again. Cool. And of course, I'm always going to be, a guy who doesn't want the Ravens to do good as a Steelers fan. But yeah, in terms of the Bengals, I've never really been, I shouldn't say never. I haven't been, a quote unquote Bengals haters because one, they were never good enough to worry about hating. And even now that they are good enough, they got too many dudes I like. So it's a respect type of thing. Biggest needs, receiver and corner. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be how it is. Every team's going to have holes. And right now, the Steelers are receiver and corner. I would expect them to address both of those. Stephon Gilmore's still out there. If they sign him, cool. They bring back Cam Sutton, cool. I think that those both would make sense for different reasons. But I'm intrigued to see what they do at nickel, because if they don't address nickel, I'm telling you what, Beanie Bishop's starting week 1. I will bank on that. Excuse me. I told you guys, I didn't have any of that all day. But as soon as I start doing this, all of a sudden, everything in my, got to start hiccuping and burping and shit. Oh, I hate it. I think it's likely they already have their wide receiver. Otherwise, if it wasn't a big-time player, they would have already signed someone like Shark, June 1st, DK. Yeah, it feels like that is the most logical one right now is DK Metcalf. That seems to be the one that people keep coming back to. And if I had to put money on it too, he's going to be the one that does get acquired. Just because of the things I already pointed out. Seahawks are in a weird spot where they're not bad, but they're not good. New head coach. A bunch of guys have already left and signed elsewhere. It just feels like they're going to hit a soft rebuild. I think they'll probably go 7-10 this year, somewhere in there. Try to get a quarterback next year. Problem with that is quarterbacks aren't good in next year's draft from everything that all my draft analyst friends tell me. So that could be a team that's in play for Dak Prescott next year. Or it could be a team that, if the Dolphins don't bring back Tua, somebody will sign him. Might be Seattle. But obviously that's, a year away. But I think that they're in a spot where okay, they're not good, but they're not gonna be horrible either. So they're just kind of in that unfortunate spot. Stephon Gilmore would be the same as P2 last year. Yeah, it wouldn't be that bad. I think Gilmore would be fine. And the good thing with that is that they'd have depth. If Stephon Gilmore struggles, okay, Dante Jackson's there. Depending on what Corey Trice looks like and Darius Rush look like. Yeah, it's just a very young room, and we don't know what they have with certain guys. You don't know what you have in Corey Trice. You saw a little bit of Darius Rush, but you don't necessarily know what he's going to turn into. So they just lack depth right now. They'll add somebody. Cam Sutton would make sense. I'd keep an eye on that. Because that's a move that would make sense to me. Draft guys and I are spoiled on this one. I'm a big college guy, and it's better than a lot. Defensive heavy. Yeah, I heard the running backs are good. Defensive line is good next year. I'm not a big college guy. I'm not a draft guy. I just go off of what my friends who are and do that for a living tell me. Once January rolls around and I'm at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine and have to start knowing who these guys are, I'll look at them a little bit. But during the season, man, I'll watch Penn State on Saturday. I'll have College Game Day on because it's fun to watch. I'll turn on some sort of game just because, okay, it's football. But I'm not invested heavily. Gilmore produced well last year. Yeah, Stephon Gilmore was fine last year. Again, he's older. I think he's about 33 or 34 now. So it would be a one-year thing. That's why you have a Dante Jackson. He's also a little bit older. He's not quite that old, but I think they'll be fine. Could easily find Kim's replacement in round 2 next year. It's corner and defense heavy. And look, one thing I'm going to push back on a ton is when people say, "Oh, they can just draft somebody." Look, man, there's no guarantee that anything's going to work out in the draft. You can try to, definitely. Like, if that's your top need, and be like, okay, we're going to go into round 1, take a corner. Hopefully he works out. That's cool. That's cool, but just beware. Ain't no guarantee it's going to work. Yeah, those are the two I've heard too. Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. We'll see. Like I said, if I see one more 2025 mock draft, I'm finding whoever wrote them and throwing a brick at them. I saw someone today. Who was it? I'm outing this person. We're doxing this person because they deserve it. Who did it? On Draft Countdown, Shane Hallam, 2027 mock draft. Are we kidding? Dude, what are you doing? 2027 mock draft. Like, come on now. What are we doing? If you do that, that should be a federal crime. I hate that. I hate mock drafts as it is, much less 2020. It's 2024, man. 2027 mock draft. Jesus Lord. That is absurd. Could not be me. If you have any more comments or questions before we wrap this up, we're about the 47-minute mark and try to keep this one under an hour today. Just going to do Trivia Bowl today. We're moving it to Thursday, actually. So Trivia Bowl on Thursday at, what am I doing? 6 Eastern, which will be fun. But if you have any more questions, comments, keep rolling them in. I'll stay on for, 5 to 10 more minutes. Can be Steelers related, can be just NFL related, life related, whatever you want to throw in here before we get on out of here. But if you're late to the party, we talked about over-unders. Bengals are set at 10.5. I think they win the division this year and hit the over. Steelers are only at 7.5 because people don't learn in Vegas. Steelers haven't finished last in the AFC North since 1988. I think they'll finish second in the division, probably around 10-7, maybe 11-6. I think the Ravens will finish third. They're set at 11.5 wins. I will comfortably take their under. I think they'll go 9-8, 10-7. And then the Browns are 8.5. I think they'll hover right around 8 wins. I'll just pull up the entire chart real quick because I saw some other folks were commenting on some over-unders. So, all right, we got any faith in Michael Thomas to actually play? No. If it ends up being Michael Thomas, I'm going to be pissed. Don't think it will be Michael Thomas because Omar Khan's not an idiot, but that would be stupid. That'd be very dumb. No, Michael Thomas had one really outstanding year and has been living off that one outstanding year for 6 seasons. Michael Thomas is not good. What about Travis Hunter, wide receiver and corner? I think that they'll have him play receiver in the NFL. So he's good. Very cool. So I wouldn't, I like Travis Hunter. He does he does some streams too and whatnot. Where's that onesie thing? I remember seeing that last year. He seems like a cool dude. So I think he'll play receiver in the NFL. So, if they get Travis Hunter, that could be fun. I don't know what his ceiling will be. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on him, but yeah, it'll be fun. I'll just roll down the list of over-unders real quick on BetMGM. Cardinals are at 6.5. I struggle with that one. I think if they go over, it'll be 7-10. I love Kyler Murray, and watching him with Marvin Harrison will be cool. But the rest of that roster, it feels like they're still a year away. Falcons are at 9.5. I'll take that over. They'll win that division comfortably. Baltimore's at 11.5 under. I'll take Buffalo over 10.5. I think they'll go 11-6 and win the division. I have an itchy fucking nose every time. Carolina Panthers, 4.5. Where'd they go? They went 2-15 last year. They were the first team since the schedule went to 17 games to finish with less than 3 wins. I think 5 wins is doable. Bears at 8.5. That's like a sneaky one that could go over. Like they go like 9-8. That would be a fun one. I think the Bengals go over 10.5. Browns, I think, under at like 8.5. So like 8-9. Dallas, I'm going to take Dallas under 10.5. I think they just kind of combust this year with they haven't done anything to make their roster better. The whole Dak contract thing is looming. They got to pay Michael Parsons and CeeDee Lamb as well. I think all of that's just going to blow up in their face. Denver at 5.5. I don't like the Broncos. I think Bo Nix is going to be bad. I think that Troy Franklin is... I don't know about Troy Franklin. They don't have a ton of weapons. They could move off of Cortland Sutton. That's a team that's going to be bad for a little bit. Lions at 10.5. I think that they'll go over. Oh, well. They'll go over. I think 10-7. 10-7 is fine. Maybe 11-6. They'll hover around that. I think the Packers win that division, though. Houston at 9.5. I'll take the over. Green Bay over 9.5. Indy at 8.5 will be one that's like, because they were 9-8 last year, or 8-9 last year, something of that. Because they were, a throw away from making it to the playoffs with Gardner Minshew as their quarterback. Anthony Richardson, man, I love watching him play. I hope he's good. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Jaguars are also at 8.5, and Trevor Lawrence rules, but the rest of that team around him, man, I'm skeptical. And I can see the Jaguars being stupid enough to think that it's Trevor Lawrence's fault and trade him. And if they do, Steelers should be on line 1. Kansas City, over 11.5. I'll always just take their overs. Even if it's under, they go 11-6. Okay, still going to be a team that's going to probably be in the AFC Championship game. Vegas, 6.5. I don't know, man. Vegas has a bad quarterback situation. Their top receiver, still solid, but he's 32. They don't really have a ton behind him. 6.5. I could see like 4-13, 5-12. Them offloading a bunch of guys at the deadline. Chargers at 8.5. I want Justin Herbert to succeed. And I've said this before, like the first year that I'm finally off the Chargers Kool-Aid will be the year that they finally get good. Eight and a half. We'll see. The Rams at 8.5. I think they'll go over. The Rams will be a playoff team. Miami at 9.5. Under. I think they'll win, go 9-8. That's another team, man. They'll beat up bad teams in the regular season, and as soon as they face a real team in a game under 70 degrees, they get the hell beat out of them. Dolphins aren't real contenders, man. Regular season champions every year. They're the week 7 champions every year. Everybody's like, oh, the Dolphins. And then once January comes around, they're like, oh, the Dolphins. Yeah, not good. The Vikings, 6.5. I like Kevin O'Connell as a head coach. Like Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's awesome. They brought over Aaron Jones from Green Bay. TJ Hawkinson's a nice tight end. I think they can go over 6.5 wins. I think that they can be a 7-10 team. New England, 5.5. I think 5 wins is probably what the Patriots will have. The Saints, 7.5. Under. The Saints are going to blow. Giants at 6.5. Under. The Giants are going to blow. Jets at 9.5. I think the Jets will go 10-7. Eagles at 10.5. Yeah. 11-6 feels right for the Eagles. Steelers at 7.5. They'll go over. 49ers at 11.5. Probably over. Probably go 12-5. Seahawks at 7.5. Yeah, we talked about it. I think 7-10 is probably right around their wheelhouse. Buccaneers at 7.5. I think they'll go like 8-9. 8-9. Tennessee at 6.5. I want to say over. I think the AFC South could be awesome this year. And look, they're putting all the pieces they need to around Will Levis. They're going to find out real quick. Look, dude, you're either good or you're bad. We're going to find out. We're going to give you all you need to succeed. We'll give you Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. We'll bring in Tyler Boyd. Upgrade the offensive line a little bit. We'll trade for L'Jarius Sneed to make the defense better. We're going to find out if you're good. And then the Commanders at 6.5. I'm not a Jaden Daniels guy. I don't think he's going to be good. He's athletic, but I don't see that ending well. So I'll say 6-11 for the Commanders. 7-10 maybe. That's a hard one to hover around. But okay, last call for questions or comments, and then I'm going to get out of here. Back tomorrow at 7:30. What are we going to talk about? Beats me. Adam Schefter just tweeted something. I got a notification. Something about the schedule by the looks of it. Oh, okay. Schedule is expected to be released Wednesday, May 15th. I got to wait an extra day for this. Damn you, NFL. All the speculation. But all right, fine. So it looks like the 15th is when the schedule will come out. We're going to start getting leaks and stuff, though, by like the 14th. Stuff will start getting leaked. So that'll be fun. Only got a week left to wait to find out the order in which the Steelers will play their opponents. Once we have that, we'll talk about that next week. Tomorrow, like I said, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. TC Steelers will win at least 10 games. I agree. Yeah, I think they'll at least repeat what they did last year. Yeah, we'll see what tomorrow brings. And then, of course, we'll get your comments and everything. Make this conversational. If we go 9-8, bye-bye Mike T. I don't think so. They go 9-8, he ain't going anywhere. I don't think so. Whether or not he should, that's a whole different conversation, but I don't think Mike Tomlin's going anywhere. He'll be safe for a while. Carolina 6-11, take the over. Yeah, I think they'll win more than 4. I think 6-11. By the way, 6-11 will be a great year for them. That's a good first year for Dave Canales and company. Especially if Bryce Young looks good. They just have a lot of stuff that they got to clean up. So it's year 1 for Dan Morgan, year 1 for Dave Canales. I think that they'll be allowed to, they'll be given time to figure it out. I hope that they do well. Hope they do well. What about 8 and 9? I just don't think Tomlin's going anywhere. Truthfully, do not. Now, if they went 8 and 9, should he? Probably. But then again, new era. So, crazy things could happen. But all right, I'm going to get out of here. Talk to you guys tomorrow about what? Like I said, not sure yet. We'll figure it out. I'll get it posted up in advance tomorrow. And of course, hop in, be part of the conversation, like, subscribe, tell your friends to like, subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. And yeah, hey, day by day, getting closer to camp. Steelers have their, I think, mini camp next week. 10th through the 12th is what they're doing for rookie mini camp. So that'll give us something to talk about. But yeah, up until then, man, this is the speculation season. So a lot of this is probably going to get a little bit repetitive, but it's that time of year. So we're in it together. We're just trying to get toward training camp, trying to get to camp, get to the preseason. Like I said, once you get me to July, we're going to be good. So see y'all tomorrow. Again, if you're not already subscribed, please do so. Tell your friends to do it too. Let's try to get to 1,000 before. Why not? Try to get to 1,000 before the end of the week. What are we at right now? By the way, just to look at the raw numbers of 300 subs over the past week. So thank you for that. Once I started paying attention to this and figuring out how to do it, it's gone pretty well. So 806 right now. Yeah, I think that getting to 1,000 by, at most the end of May, that's doable. But yeah, tell your friends to subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. I'll see y'all tomorrow for the Black and Gold Breakdown.